In the far reaches of the galaxy, there was a quiet little trading station known as Nebula's Rest, where ships from hundreds of species stopped for fuel, repairs, or a brief taste of peace. Hidden in one corner of the station was a small human diner, old-fashioned in design, with neon lights, checkered floors, and a cozy smell of grilled meat and warm bread. It was called the Last Light, and though many passed it without a glance, one customer always came on the same day, at the same time, and sat at the same table, table 9. That customer was not human, nor even close to it. He was a dragon. Not the mythical kind from Earth's old stories, but a real, ancient alien species with dark scales, golden eyes, and wings folded tight against his massive back. His name was Vorthix, and nobody dared to speak to him except for the one who always served him, Evelyn, the owner of the diner. She never asked questions, and he never spoke more than needed. He came once a week, ordered the same meal, earth-style tea and plasma baked meat, and left without a sound. People said he was older than most moons and had burned starships with his breath, but Evelyn treated him like any other guest. However, tonight was different. Evelyn had left the diner in the care of her niece, Lana, a curious 19-year-old, who had never seen the dragon up close but had heard countless stories. When the bell above the door rang, the few customers inside fell silent. Vorthix entered, ducking slightly to avoid brushing the ceiling, his long tail curling behind him. Lana froze for a second, heart pounding, but quickly forced a smile and approached his table. "Welcome to the Last Light," she said, voice slightly shaky. "Can I get you the usual?" Vorthix gave her a slow nod, his glowing eyes fixed on her with an unreadable expression. She turned to leave but paused, unable to stop herself. "If you don't mind me asking," she said quietly, "why do you come here? What's so special about our food?" The diner went still. No one had ever asked him that, not Evelyn, not any traveler, no one. For a long moment, Vorthix didn't speak. His gaze darkened slightly, as if Lana had touched a memory buried deep beneath time. "You humans," he finally said, his voice deep and echoing like distant thunder, "season your food with something no other species does." Lana blinked. "What's that?" she asked, genuinely curious. Vorthix leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. "You season it with emotion," he said, "with grief, hope, laughter. No machine, no synthetic blend can copy that. It is not taste, it is feeling." Lana stared, stunned by his words. He looked away then, as if he had already said too much. But Lana's interest had only grown stronger. She returned to the kitchen and thought of something. Instead of the regular recipe, she added something different this time. Not an ingredient, but a piece of memory, a human one. She thought of her grandmother's laugh, her mother's hug, and the night her family gathered around a table during a storm and told stories to keep each other warm. She didn't understand why, but she felt that these moments would reach him. When she returned with the meal and placed it gently in front of him, Vorthix took one bite and stopped moving. His golden eyes flickered, then narrowed, then widened. Lana held her breath. Slowly, he looked up at her again, and this time there was something new in his gaze, something ancient, something shaken. "Where did you learn this recipe?" he asked, voice quieter now. "It's just something passed down from my family," she replied. "They called it memory stew. We only make it on special days." Vorthix nodded slowly. "Your kind," he said, almost to himself, "survived more than war. You survived sorrow. And somehow, you turned it into something that could be tasted." Lana tilted her head. "Is that why you come here?" she asked. "Because it reminds you of something." The dragon didn't answer right away. Then he said something that made her skin crawl with mystery. "I taste memories I've never lived, and feelings I've forgotten." Just as she was about to ask what he meant, the bell rang again. A tall, shadowy figure entered the diner, wrapped in robes, with glowing green eyes beneath a hood. The air shifted, even Vorthix's posture stiffened. Lana stepped back. The figure walked slowly, not toward a table, but toward Vorthix. The dragon turned his head slightly, his voice low. "You shouldn't be here." The robed figure said nothing at first, then spoke in a whisper only Lana and Vorthix could hear. "You're leaking memories, old beast, and they've reached ears that should never hear them." Vorthix stood up slowly, casting a shadow across half the diner. "Then let them come," he said. "But know this, what I've tasted here, no mind can untaste." The robed figure looked at Lana, then back at Vorthix. "She served you something dangerous." Lana took a step back, confused and afraid. "I just followed an old family recipe." The figure turned and left without another word. Vorthix looked down at Lana, something almost like sorrow in his ancient eyes. "You've done something rare," he said. "You fed me a truth I'd buried for centuries." Lana swallowed hard. "What kind of truth?" The dragon's voice dropped to a whisper. "That humans are the only ones who remember pain and still offer kindness in its flavor." With that, he sat down again, finished the stew in silence, and when he left, he said something no one ever expected from a creature like him. "Thank you, Lana." And then, just like that, the door closed behind him, leaving behind only warmth and questions that would not fade with time. The next day, Lana couldn't stop thinking about the dragon's words, about how he had looked at her with those ancient eyes, and about the strange robed figure who had entered the diner just before Vorthix left. The memory stew hadn't just been a meal, it had done something, touched something deep inside the dragon, and maybe even unlocked a memory he had buried long ago. Lana stood in the small kitchen of the Last Light, staring at the recipe book her grandmother had written by hand, its pages stained with time and old cooking oil. There were no strange ingredients in the memory stew, nothing magical or technical, only herbs, spices, and a few personal notes about feelings and moments that could never be measured. Lana remembered how she had thought of her family's laughter and tears while cooking, and now she wondered if that was the secret, the human touch. That night, when the lights dimmed and the last customer left, Lana stayed behind to clean, but she had a feeling she wasn't alone. Sure enough, when she turned toward table 9, Vorthix was there again, even though it wasn't his usual day. His wings were slightly open, his tail restless, and his eyes had a strange glow. Lana approached slowly. "You came back early," she said. Vorthix nodded, his voice low. "I need to know what was in that stew." Lana explained everything, how she had thought of memories, how her family believed emotion gave flavor to food. The dragon listened in silence, but his claws tapped against the table, a sign of tension. "I tasted something impossible," he said. "A forest I have never walked, rain I have never felt, and a child's laughter that wasn't mine. It was like I was dreaming someone else's life." Lana stared at him. "But how could that be? They were my memories." Vorthix looked troubled. "Dragons do not share minds. We do not feel others' emotions, but yours still made me remember something I've never lived that is dangerous." Just then, the bell above the door rang again, and Lana's heart skipped a beat. The same robed figure walked in, eyes glowing beneath the hood. "He tasted your history," the figure said, pointing a bony finger at Vorthix, "and now his mind is no longer his own." Vorthix growled low, his scales shifting slightly. "You again, why are you following me?" The figure ignored the dragon and turned to Lana. "Do you even know what you've done? That dish was no stew. It was a key, and you just unlocked something we tried to seal long ago." Lana stepped back. "It was just food, just feelings." The figure laughed, a cold, dry sound. "Human feelings are not simple, they are heavy. They bend memory, twist thought, and dig deep into creatures that have forgotten how to feel." Lana didn't understand everything, but she could see the truth in Vorthix's eyes. He was afraid. "What did you remember?" she asked him. Vorthix didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, he said, "I remembered being in a war, not the battles, but the faces of those I burned. I remembered choosing silence over sorrow. I buried it all, but your still made it return. And worse, I remembered humans." Lana looked confused. But we only met recently. Vorthix shook his head. Long ago, before your species even reached the stars, dragons like me made contact with early humans. We came as gods. They treated us as monsters, but one of them, a woman, cooked something for me. It tasted like peace. The robed figure hissed. That was the beginning of the downfall. Dragons who felt became dragons who questioned. The bond was broken, and memory was forbidden. Lana stepped forward. You mean humans once taught dragons to feel? The figure snarled, and it nearly destroyed them. Emotion weakens the old ones. That is why we stopped it. Vorthix growled louder now. No, it made us real. It gave us something the stars could never offer. Lana realized the stew hadn't just touched Vorthix's heart, it had awakened something ancient, a truth erased by time and fear. The figure moved closer, raising a device that buzzed with static light. You must forget, he said, or you will become unstable. Dragons must not remember what they lost. Lana stepped in front of Vorthix. No, he has the right to choose. The dragon rose to his full height, shadows twisting around him, eyes burning with memories both beautiful and painful. I choose to remember, he said. The robed figure lunged forward, but Vorthix unleashed a wave of heat, not fire, but memory itself, blasting the figure backward into the wall. The diner shook, and the lights flickered. The figure vanished in a blur of dark mist, leaving only silence behind. Vorthix slowly sat down again, tired but calm. Lana brought him a cup of tea, her hands shaking. Are you okay? She asked. He nodded. I am changed. She sat across from him. What now? Vorthix looked at the glowing tea, then at her. Now we cook again, we remember more. But in the far corners of space, something else had awakened to others who feared the return of memory, of connection, and of humans who could stir the hearts of even the coldest creatures. Lana woke up the next morning with the memory of Vorthix's glowing eyes still fresh in her mind, along with the strange heat that had filled the diner after he used something more powerful than fire, something made of memory itself. She didn't understand how her family's simple stew could awaken buried truths in an ancient dragon, but she knew something had changed forever. When she entered the last light to open up for the day, she found Vorthix already sitting at table 9, silent and still, his wings folded tightly, eyes watching the empty street outside as if waiting for something. I didn't expect you this early, Lana said carefully, setting down a clean mug in front of him. The one who visited last night, Vorthix said without turning, wasn't alone. He was a seeker from the Zarn Collective. If one comes, more will follow. Lana felt a cold chill slide down her back. What do they want? She asked. Vorthix finally looked at her. Control. The Seekers collect ancient truths and lock them away. Your stew unlocked something I had forgotten. Something they fear. Lana sat across from him, her voice low. Then we need to understand it. We need to know what the real secret is. Vorthix nodded slowly. Then show me the recipe again, the one you used. She brought out the stained old cookbook and placed it on the table. He flipped through the pages carefully, his sharp claws surprisingly gentle. He stopped on the page marked Memory Stew, where her grandmother had written in faded ink, add a drop of feeling, not water. Think of someone you miss. Stir gently with a memory you wish you could relive. Vorthix studied the words for a long time, then looked up. This is not a recipe. It is a ritual. Lana frowned. It's how my grandmother taught us to cook. We believed that emotions could flavor food. The dragon leaned forward. And that is the sole ingredient. Not the spices, not the heat. It is the human ability to pour feelings into what you create. That is what no other species can do. Before Lana could respond, the lights in the diner flickered, and a low hum filled the air. Outside, the sky above Nebula's Rest darkened, and several sleek ships appeared, silent and silver, hovering just above the rooftops. The Zarn had arrived. Vorthix stood quickly, eyes burning gold. They will try to erase what we've remembered, he said. Lana's heart raced as the door opened, and 3 figures in long black robes entered, their faces hidden, their movements Calm but cold, the dish must be destroyed, one of them said. And the human must forget. Vorthix stepped between them and Lana, growling low. She unlocked something that was always ours to find. You will not take it. The lead seeker lifted a small orb glowing with a strange white light. We have the authority of the tribunal. Emotional contamination across species is a threat to peace. Lana stood up, fear in her chest, but anger in her voice. You mean you're scared of people remembering who they really are? The seeker stepped closer. What you cooked was not food, it was history. And we have spent centuries making sure certain histories remain buried. Suddenly, the orb flashed, and Vorthix roared, shielding Lana as the air twisted with invisible force. But then something strange happened. The stew pot in the kitchen, still warm from the last batch, began to glow. The scent drifted into the room not of spices, but of memory itself. The seekers hesitated. Their eyes flickered beneath their hoods. One of them dropped his knees, clutching his head. It's too strong, he whispered. It feels like sorrow. Lana didn't wait. She ran to the kitchen, grabbed the pot, and carried it back to the dining room. You said it was dangerous, she said, but maybe that's the point. Maybe feeling is what makes us strong. Vorthix reached into the stew with a claw, dipped a bit onto his tongue, and his entire body lit with soft orange light. I see her now, he said, the human woman who fed me long ago. She sang while she cooked. I never knew her name, but I remember her heart. The seekers began to retreat, as if the very air around them was pressing down with forgotten feelings. This can't be allowed, the leader hissed. You're waking dragons. You're waking the past. Vorthix stepped forward, fire building in his throat. Then run, he growled, because once we remember, we do not forget. With a final burst of heat, not fire, but pure memory, the seekers vanished, their forms dissolved into mist and silence. The ships above withdrew, and the sky cleared. Lana set the pot down slowly, her hands trembling. Did we just win? She asked. Vorthix smiled, a rare and quiet thing. For now, but the real battle is not with weapons. It is with forgetting. Your kind has won because you never let go of feeling. Lana sat beside him, looking at the stew. Then we keep cooking, we keep remembering. Outside, stars blinked gently in the sky, and the galaxy turned as it always did, unaware that in a small diner on a quiet station, a dragon and a girl had just reminded the universe of something long lost the power of. A soul stirred by memory. The next few days at the last light were quiet, but Lana felt the silence pressing on her chest like a warning, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Vorthix had not returned since the encounter with the Seekers, and though no more ships had appeared in the sky, Lana could feel something shifting in the air, something watching. She tried to focus on the diner, serving passing travelers and wiping down the same counter her grandmother once stood behind, but her thoughts kept returning to the stew, to the memories it had stirred, and to the truth that even the mighty dragon had once been afraid to face. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the silver ridges of Nebula's Rest, the door creaked open, and Vorthix entered, slower than usual, his wings dragging slightly behind him, his scales duller, and his golden eyes dimmer than before. Lana rushed to him, worrying rising like a storm. "What happened to you?" she asked. He sat down at table 9 with a heavy breath. "The memories are not leaving," he said. "They come stronger every night. I remember battles, faces, screams. I remember the woman who sang as she cooked for me, long before the stars were mapped. I remember ... guilt." Lana sat across from him, her voice soft. "But you said remembering was your choice." Vorthix nodded. "It was, but now I see why the dragons buried those memories. Not to protect others, but to protect ourselves. The truth beneath our scales is not glory, it is shame. We burned, we conquered, we ruled with fear, but the humans ... They never feared the truth, they faced it. They carried it in stories, in food, in every emotion they passed to their children. You never forgot your pain, and you used it to grow. We buried ours and called it strength. Lana listened carefully, her heart heavy. So what do you do now? She asked. Vorthix looked at the small pot of stew she had just made, still warm on the counter. I need to remember more, he said. If I run from it now, I become what I was, empty inside. But if I keep going, I might find the reason why that human fed me long ago. I think she gave me more than food. I think she tried to save me. Before Lana could speak, the door burst open again. This time, it wasn't a seeker, it was a tribunal officer, tall and armored, with silver skin and eyes like polished stone. Behind him stood several agents, holding scanners and devices that hummed with power. Step away from the dragon, the officer ordered. He has been reported for mental instability and spreading forbidden memory contagion. Lana stood between them and Vorthix. He's done nothing wrong, she said, her voice firm. He remembered, that's all. The officer ignored her. We've seen what this stew does. It's not food. It's a psychological weapon. The dragon's mind is collapsing because of human emotional interference. Vorthix slowly rose, his head held high, despite the weariness in his body. My mind is not collapsing, he said. It is awakening. You've built a galaxy on forgetting. But humans ... They built their strength on remembering. The tribunal agents raised their devices, but Lana shouted, Stop. If you think it's a weapon, then test it yourselves. Eat it. Feel it. Then, tell me it's wrong. The officer stared at her, then motioned to one of the agents. The agent stepped forward, took a cautious spoonful of the stew, and brought it to his lips. The room fell silent. A moment passed, then the agent gasped, his eyes wide. I see, a small home, a child's drawing. A goodbye I never said. His voice shook. This isn't poison. It's truth. The officer stepped back, uncertain. Now, truth is not always safe, he muttered. Vorthix stepped forward. Neither is silence. I lived centuries believing I was above sorrow. But one human's kindness broke that illusion. She gave me a taste of her soul, and it taught me to see my own. The officer looked at Lana, then at the dragon, and finally at the agent still wiping tears from his eyes. We will report this to the High Council, he said quietly. But until then, this place is under watch. The agents left without another word, and the door slowly closed behind them. Lana turned to Vorthix, breathing hard. They'll come back, maybe with more force, he nodded. Let them. The truth cannot be cooked once and forgotten. It must be served again and again. Lana placed a hand gently on his claw. Then we keep serving it. No matter who tries to stop us. Outside, the stars above Nebula's Rest glowed a little brighter, and far away, across the corners of the galaxy, stories began to stir, stories of a human girl, a dragon, and a stew that carried something more powerful than fire, the truth beneath the scales. The days passed slowly, and whispers began to spread through Nebula's Rest, whispers of a human girl who made dragons remember, of a stew that awakened forgotten pain and hidden truths, and of a diner where the food tasted not just of spices, but of soul. Lana kept the doors of the last light open, though she knew that more eyes were watching now. Vorthix returned every evening, not always to eat, but sometimes just to sit and breathe in the scent of memory that hung in the air. He seemed quieter, but stronger in a strange way, like someone walking through a storm with his eyes finally open. The stew was no longer just a dish. It had become a symbol of connection, of emotion, of the human power to turn pain into something meaningful. One night, a new visitor arrived. She was tall, with silver hair and a soft voice, and wore no uniform or robe. She claimed to be a storyteller, not from the tribunal, but from the Wanderers' Circle, a group that collected truths the galaxy tried to forget. She asked to try the stew. Lana served it without question. After the first spoonful, the woman's eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, I see my brother's smile. He died centuries ago, but I remember him now. She stood and bowed to Lana. You have done something no empire could do. You brought back what we buried. That same night, Vorthik stood and placed something on the counter, a small, glowing stone. This is my last gift, he said. It holds part of my memory, the oldest part. Give it to someone who needs to remember who they truly are. Lana took it gently. Where will you go? She asked. He looked up at the stars. To the place where I first met humans. I need to see it again, with new eyes. As he left the diner, his wings stretching wide beneath the moonlight, Lana felt something change in the air, like the first page of a new story being turned. Days became weeks, and more visitors arrived, not to escape or fight, but to remember. An insectoid pilot who had lost his family tasted the stew and wept. A machine being, made of wires and metal, tried it and whispered its first dream. The tribunal did not return, but their agents did quietly, in disguise, not to destroy, but to understand. One even offered a word of thanks before leaving, and, through it all, Lana continued to cook, always with care, always with memory. She knew the truth now, the truth that only humans seem to carry deep within their hearts, that pain was not weakness, that feeling was not a flaw, and that even the deepest sorrow could be turned into something warm, healing, and shared. One evening, a child entered the diner, alone, scared, and silent. Lana served him stew. After a few bites, the child whispered, I remember my mother's song. That was when Lana finally understood. It wasn't just the stew. It wasn't even the recipe. It was the human touch, the act of remembering, of caring, of choosing not to forget even when forgetting would be easier. It was something no machine could replicate, no law could erase, and no species could fake. It was what made humans different, not better, just real. She hung a new sign outside the diner the next morning. It was simple, made from old wood and paint, but it glowed softly in the starlight. It read, now serving what only humans know, and every traveler who passed through Nebula's Rest saw it, and many entered, and some left changed. Far away, in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, Vorthik stood in a quiet forest beneath Earth-like skies, listening to the wind. He placed his clawed hand on the ground and smiled, not with pride, but with peace. He remembered the woman who once sang as she cooked for him. He remembered her laughter, her sorrow, and the day she gave him food meant not to fill the body, but to awaken the heart. And he finally whispered her name, something he had forgotten for centuries, Anna. At the last light, Lana looked up from the counter, a strange warmth in her chest, as if someone she had never met had just spoken her name across time. And somewhere in the stars, memory stirred again,